That's good evening, Case. You know what I mean? Like, Belfast boxing please. Belfast boxing please. You know, the barbers that you get these days aren't really. They don't do the best to get jobs, do they? Surely not, like, because you end up all this here, but you have to work with what you've got. And if you get a fucking haircut, you know, I might be penciled in for next Wednesday at 11:30. If I'm not up and down there to make sure I fucking get it, we fucking Patrick here might fucking get in and get it before me. You know what I mean? And I could make like the Herbert bunch. So it's not quite fair. So the barbers might, we're not talking top hairstylists, like, you know what I mean? Paris, London, Munich, all that there shit. You know what I mean? You know, the Del boys of this world, they're running around and making weight deals here and there, but something you have to mind, right? You know, you had Uncle Albert, brilliant, you know what I mean? But Rodney, like, he was kind of the straight man, Rodney, wasn't he? Like, he wasn't just as quick with the old jokes as Del Boy would have been. Del Boy, and he always dressed, he always had a nice old jacket on too, Del Boy, didn't he? And he was getting the pints in that too, like, whatever he could afford to, like, you know, an old sherry for fucking Uncle Albert or whatever. Rodney, you know, would have, you know, an ale probably. And Del Boy would be drinking a wee cocktail or something like that there. You know what I mean? Like, he does the talking, like, but do you see if you let a Del Boy like that just run unchecked? You know, you need a Rodney in there, you know what I mean? Just as well he's his brother, just to say, look, Derek, you're talking nonsense, mate. You've been talking all day. You've been talking, you know what I mean? Nobody else can get a word in here. Uncle Albert's got good stories for years, but everybody wants to hear them, but you won't stop talking, you know? Telling everybody about these great deals that you made. Del Boy, just shut your mouth 2 fucking seconds here, right? Because, like, we're sick of hearing your bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, so it's good to have Rodney there, isn't it? Like, it's good to have Rodney Trot there, like, you know. And then sure, he went and he was doing the other thing, Rodney too, wasn't he? Where he was a wee detective and all. And he had his girlfriend work behind the bar and that, and he'd come in, like, she gave him a wee discount on the drinks and stuff usually as well, didn't she, like? And he'd be wearing, you know, the old shirt and the trousers and the braces, you know, the old holster and that there, like. Because Rodney, like, I mean, he was the most unprepossessing big string bean of a fella, you know, but if you hadn't known the secret service connections, you know what I mean? And Del Boy must have knew, because every time Rodney says to him here, fuck you up for 2 seconds, please. You know what I mean? Belly big balls, you know. Did you not know I was in the fucking FBI and all that there, like? Fuck's sake, you know what I mean, like? But that was how Rodney, like, he was one of the best in his day, wasn't he? He was one of the best, and, you know, you watch all Lonely Fools and Horses, you know, all the good shows, like Catchphrase and Blockbusters and all like that, Bullseye, you know, when cash was king, and, you do all that there, but that's connected to with the old snooker too, so the same kind of era, isn't it? Because even if you watch the present day snooker, this world championship that's going on, right? You're in the 80s there, aren't you? Like, well, as soon as you tune in, like, it's like, right, lethal, we're going to the 80s here. Like, that's where we're going. You know what I mean? So, I don't know, man. I say, like, Del Boy, probably great with a trick shot, you know, on the old 9-ball table or something like that. Uncle Albert, more of a billiards man, more than likely, I would say. Rodney, I would say Rodney could knock together a decent old break, like, on the snooker table. You know to look at him, don't you? Because all snooker players have that same old thing about them, you know what I mean? They're like an old villain out of the Beano or something like that there, you know. So, it just so happens that the barber we all go to, that's the way he does you know what I mean? Like, you can't really escape that there, like, you know, even if you do wear a wee orange jacket like that there, 4 nights on the trot. But you know too, Del Boy was a bit of a stylish guy, wasn't he? Like, And when you strike upon a good outfit, you have to rinse it. Like, you have to rinse it out, because after that weekend, you have to pick another one. You have to get some other little soiree together, like. So anyway, guys, we got this Eubank Conor bomb fight coming up. Yeah, it's great to watch little highlights and things like that, and you look at Conor Benn pre-pop for performance enhancing drugs, and he was smashing people. Chris Algieri, who I think is a great boxing pundit, by the way, and was a good old fighter. Like, he got a world title, like, beat Provodnikov, wasn't it? Good technical fighter. It was like, they said back in the day, Jazz, right, that, in the very early days, that a black musician had to be 100 times better than the white musician on the same instrument just to get a job, which seemed like ridiculous odds. That might have been a little over elaborate, but they're making their point, like. And it stands to reckon, like, you know what I mean? It really stands to reckon. Apparently Algieri said that, and he's the white guy in this instance, that in order for him to get to the level to win a world title, he had to work like 10 times harder than the next guy, because he was athletic, and he had skills, but his reflexes and his natural, slick abilities, movements, rhythms and stuff, and inbuilt natural stuff that other fighters might have had, he didn't have those. He didn't have the benefit of that, so he had to work his ass off. So he earned his title, and I think Algieri deserves more respect than to have finished his career being knocked out by Conor Benn, who was using performance-enhancing drugs. Because if you watch, since he popped, right, Eddie Hearn got him 2 fights in the States, right? He shouldn't have been fighting at all. He hadn't been cleared, but, Hearn has his wily ways. And in both of those fights, he was useless. It might have been a confidence thing, because his moves and stuff even weren't really there. And he did show good boxing skills in some of the earlier things, but we don't really know how these PEDs really work, do we? Chris Eubank there's starting to become something of a fan favourite, which I don't think anybody's seen that coming, and he's been through a lot, with the Nick Blackwell thing and everything, before he learned how to clip a punch, you know what I mean, and, make a punch concise and effective, in all the areas that matter. And before that, he was just being built, so he was going in, and he was, we've seen the footage of him in the gym slamming these pads, and he was just taking that straight into the ring. But he was a young guy, and he was only up, Nobody said to him, look, you can step back and throw that left hook and clip him on the chin. And it's going to look much better in person and on TV, and it'll sell you more for your next fights, and people will appreciate you as a fighter, instead of getting in and just slapping people around the head again, which, who needs that? That's not impressive, that's just damaging to your opponent, so. But Eubank Jr. spent his time with Roy Jones Jr. Seems to have done something for him. I think the fight in which he was beat against Liam Smith, he boxed quite well up until the round of the knockout. And he certainly boxed great in the second fight, from what I remember. I seen Boxing Life, great channel, Scottish fella does them, had spoke of it as jab, and how he had went from just being a very mundane jabber, go, step, go, one to the body, go, but all of a sudden he was going, go, setting it up, timing it, looking around it like that there. One downstairs, step right, a little bit to the left, come down a wee bit, right hand, all that there type of stuff, like, because Roy Jones Jr. knows what he's at. And some people listen to Roy Jones Jr. talking and they think, this guy sounds a bit dumb, he sounds a wee bit brain damaged, Antonio Tarver must have given brain damage. Yeah, but Roy Jones Jr. isn't dumb at all, man. He ain't dumb at all. If you think he's dumb, you're fucking dumb. You know what I mean? I think we all know the crack in that one. You know, whatever way a person chooses to express himself, you know. If you can tune to it and read them properly, then you understand, you know. Roy Jones Jr. is not like he was just some accidental genius and he learned to do all the stuff he did and it was just all natural ability and that was it. You know, and then he had a big downslide in his career, so yeah, oh yeah. No, that's not the story at all. He's a very smart guy, like, he set up those moves, he created that style, he did all that as a young man, like, you know. You gotta respect Roy Jones Jr., like, you know. And some of his raps aren't that bad. See, to be fair, some of his raps are actually quite good. And he beat James Toney, didn't he? He would have been top 3, top 5 pound for pound that time, yeah. And that solidified Roy Jones Jr. #1 pound for pound. What a guy. Come on, Eubank. Knock him out, kid. Nice one.